The topic of today's video is serial verb constructions. First, let's look at the learning outcomes. By the end of the unit, you'll be able to define and exemplify what a serial verb construction is, explain the more frequent use of serial verb constructions in Mandarin than in English, describe 3 of the 4 types of serial verb constructions with examples, and evaluate whether a sentence is in the serial verb construction. There are 4 topics: defining serial verb constructions, discussing the meaning of serial verb constructions, and comparing the serial verb constructions in Mandarin and English. Finally, we'll discuss 4 types of serial verb constructions. Let's start with some background knowledge. Let's look at what is a verb phrase and a clause. A verb phrase, abbreviated as VP, may be composed of a single bare verb or a verb with various dependent elements, such as objects and modifiers. The simplest verb phrase is a bare verb, as in this example, 走. 吃饭 is another verb phrase. It is a bit more complex than just a single verb. It is composed of a verb and its direct object, 饭. The third example, 认真地写作业, is also a verb phrase. It is composed of a modifier, 认真地, carefully, verb, 写, and the direct object of the verb, 作业. So 认真地写作业 is also a verb phrase. Let's look at what a clause is. A clause is composed of a subject and a predicate. The predicate is dominantly a verb phrase or an adjective phrase. For example, 那只鸟飞走了. 那只鸟 is the subject. 飞走了 is a predicate. Altogether, subject and a predicate form a sentence, or a clause in the syntactic term. And in this clause, the predicate is a verb phrase, 飞走了. The second example, 阿尔伯塔省的经济很好. The subject of the clause is 阿尔伯塔省的经济, Alberta's economy. The predicate is 很好. This is an adjective phrase. So these 2 are typical examples of clauses. After explaining what a verb phrase is and what a clause is, let's look at the definition of serial verb construction. A sentence that contains 2 or more verb phrases or clauses juxtaposed without any marker, such as conjunctions, indicating what the relationship is between them. Such a sentence is called in a serial verb construction. So the key term here is juxtaposed without any marker. We explained just now what a verb phrase and what a clause is. So 2 verb phrases or 2 clauses juxtaposed, immediately put together, without any marker. For example, without any conjunctions. So a direct putting together of 2 verb phrases or clauses, forming a new sentence, and that sentence is a serial verb construction. The verb phrases in the serial verb construction always refer to events or states of affairs, which are understood to be related as parts of one overall event or state of affairs. Let's look at some examples. 我们买票进去. The structure of this sentence is very clearly a serial verb construction. 买票 is a verb phrase. 进去 is another verb phrase. 我们买票进去. In this sentence, it contains two verb phrases directly juxtaposed, meaning directly put together without any marker in the middle. That is a serial verb construction. And let's look at the two verb phrases. They both belong to one event, two parts of one overall event. In this case, we bought tickets and went in. So buying tickets and going in, these are part of this one overall event of buying tickets, and then after that we went in. So that's two parts of one overall event. The second example, 开车打手机违法. Driving while using the cell phone violates a law. And in this sentence, there are three verb phrases. 开车 is a verb phrase. 打手机 second verb phrase. 违法 the third verb phrase. When the three verb phrases are put directly together, meaning juxtaposed without any marker in between, this is what we call a serial verb construction. And the three verb phrases are also related. They are parts of one overall event. So, driving while using cell phone and these two actions, when they are taking place at the same time, they violate the law. So, they all belong to one overall event. The third sentence, 他送你东西表示他喜欢你. 他送你东西 is a clause. Subject, 他送你东西 is a predicate. We just discussed this is a clause. 表示 is a verb or verb phrase, the simplest verb phrase of verb. 他喜欢你 is another clause. When the three components, a clause, a verb, and a clause or verb phrase, the three components are juxtaposed, directly put together, and the three components are also related. And this is what we call the serial verb construction. The fourth sentence, 他怕你不喜欢他. 怕 is a verb. 你不喜欢他 is a clause. 他怕你不喜欢他. In this case, the verb or verb phrase and the clause are directly juxtaposed and indicating a certain relationship between them. So this is what we call the serial verb construction as well. Based on this definition, 我吃饭读书 is a serial verb construction. 吃饭 is a verb phrase. 读书 is another verb phrase. And the two verb phrases are directly juxtaposed without any marker in the middle. And these two verb phrases describe certain relationship between the two events which belong to parts of the overall event. The second example, 我先吃饭然后读书. This is not a serial verb construction. The reason for that is there is a conjunction 然后 inserted between the two verb phrases. Note the definition. Verb phrases or clauses juxtaposed without any marker, meaning without any conjunctions. And these two verb phrases, 吃饭然后读书, obviously has something in the middle, which is the conjunction 然后. So this is not a serial verb construction. Now let's look at the meaning of serial verb constructions. The serial verb constructions describe events which involve more than one actions that are related to the events. So the key words here are more than one actions related to an event. I'd like to introduce these two interrelated notions, grammar structure and event structure. They are closely related. Event structure refers to the structure of an event in the real world. It is oftentimes reflected in the grammar structure. Let's look at an action in the event structure. And the action may be expressed through a verb phrase. Simple event normally has one action. For example, butcher a pig. And in Chinese, 杀一只猪. So a simple sentence in grammar with one verb phrase reflects one simple event. Let's look at a complex event. A complex event usually involves more than one action. That's why we call it complex, meaning there is not only one action, but two or more actions involved in that event. Therefore, it is complex event. For example, an event may involve take a knife and then butcher a pig. These are the two different actions involved in the event. For complex event, grammar may also be able to capture that, which is in a complex sentence with more than one verb phrase. 他拿刀杀死了一只猪. So in this case, 拿刀 is an action, 杀死了一只猪 is another action. So 拿刀, this verb phrase captures the first action, take a knife. 杀死了一只猪, the second verb phrase, captures the second action, butcher a pig. And this is what we call a serial verb construction. The serial verb construction reflects a complex event involving two or more than two actions, as in this example. So this is what it meant by the serial verb constructions describe events which involve more than one actions, which refer to complex events. So in the event structure, if there is a complex event involving two or more actions, then in grammar, in Mandarin, we can use serial verb constructions to reflect or capture that complex event structure. And this is what we just described, the meaning of the serial verb construction. And this is an example demonstrating the serial verb construction. 我们买票进去. If we were to translate it into English, this would be the translation. We bought tickets and went in. Note that in English translation of this sentence, we must add a conjunction and to make the sentence grammatical. However, in Mandarin Chinese, no conjunction is needed in the serial verb construction. 买票进去 is completely grammatical, but in English, a conjunction and has to be added. The question now is there any serial verb construction in English? If you think so, can you think of an example? Now let's look at a serial verb construction sentence in English. Like in this one, we will go eat. Go is a verb phrase, the simplest form of a verb phrase, which is a verb. Eat is also a verb phrase, or the simplest verb phrase, which is a bare verb. So these two verb phrases are directly put together, juxtaposed, without any marker in the middle. So that is a serial verb construction, and also they are related to one event, go eat, a complex event. So there are indeed serial verb constructions in English. However, they are much more limited in number compared to the number of serial verb constructions in Chinese. Why is that? The reason for that is, unlike English, Chinese has few syntactic markers or inflections of verbs, meaning there aren't any conjugations or changes of the forms of verbs depending on its tense or number of the subjects or the gender of the subjects, unlike in some European languages. And because of those lack of any changes or forms or inflections of the verbs, verbs tend to be directly juxtaposed without any syntactic markers. For example, 我喜欢跑步. Because there's no ing form, change of this form in Chinese, unlike in English. In English, we could add ing to change the form of this verb from run to running. But in Mandarin, there is no such an inflectional process. The verb remains the same, still 跑步, still 喜欢. So verbs could be directly juxtaposed without any of those grammatical markers, like in English. People have to add ing. I like running, or I like to run. So you have to add a to or ing, those grammatical markers. And it is ungrammatical to put I like run directly together. That is unacceptable. And the second sentence, 我用筷子吃饭. 用筷子 is a verb phrase. 吃饭 is a verb phrase. It's completely okay to put these two verb phrases directly together in Mandarin. But in English, this word to, showing from eat meal to make it to eat meal becomes infinitive. This infinitive marker to has to be added. This grammatical marker has to be added to make it grammatical. Third sentence, 我们唱歌跳舞. 唱歌跳舞, again, two verb phrases directly put together. In English, they sing and dance. We cannot say they sing, dance. A conjunction and has to be added. So we can see the difference between English and Chinese grammar. And because of the lack of any inflectional forms or any grammatical markers of the indicating different forms of the verbs remain the same. The form of the verbs remains the same in Chinese. Whereas in English, the verb forms change depending on the tense or aspect, and also depending on whether there are other verb phrases in the same sentence. So because of those grammatical differences, we see quite a large number of serial verb constructions in Chinese, but quite limited number of serial verb constructions in English.